I had this dream once. It was sort of a nightmare, I suppose. I were on top of a 16-floor tall apartment building. My friend lived at the ninth floor, so I decided to go down. I descended. I walked. I walked. Eventually, I got to the ninth floor, and instead of going to my friend's home, I decided to go down just another floor to see what was all of the noise about. I went down, and immediately my heart nearly stopped. There's this glass door. Behind it were hordes of zombies. Saying that they were zombies is a bit weird, and actually takes away from the horror. They were not zombies. They were still human, but they had nothing behind their eyes. You can obviously tell that they were in lots of pain, but you couldn't do anything. They were so distraught, confused, angry, and in pain. They suffered so much that their brain were obviously incapable of thinking correctly. And after seeing that horror, I went to my friend. We talked, and then both of us somehow teleported. Well, I don't actually know if we have teleported or I just simply skipped something. But the next moment, he and I were in a car. In car, there were our other friends. And an unknown dude, I don't know who the hell he was. He was driving. And we got very close to my apartment building, to my home. But dude suddenly stopped and said, "Hey, this is as far as I can get. You two are on your own." I basically begged him to just go few dozen more meters, and we'll be practically right next to my apartment building. I begged, I asked, I cried. He said, "Sorry, no can do," and dropped me and my friends off. Now, I must apologize. English is not my first language. It's my second language. I lack the adequate enough words to describe the horror that I saw there, but the very first thing I saw was this lady. At her right hand, she was holding her daughter. At her left hand, she was holding her husband. Her husband was obviously not himself anymore. Again, he had nothing behind his eyes. He was twitching, covered in blood, barely moving. The mother was trying her hardest to hold her daughter's hand and the husband's hand. The husband was barely walking forward, barely, just in control of his body. It seemed like he was trying to fight back something, some urge, I suppose. And the lady herself, she was not off good as well. She was also covered in scratch marks, bite marks, and bruises. She had a low stance. Sure, her body was shaking. She was trying her best to walk forward, and obviously failing. She she was trying her best to fight against something, but also were failing and turning into something else. I would say that it was kind of a monster, but it's hard. And her daughter, well, she had absolutely no injury on her. She was safe, but sadly she was blind. She were able to hear her mother and father gurgling, yelling, and crying in pain. And she was just yelling, "Daddy, Mommy." But there was no one to answer to her cries. She held one toy in her hand, and at the other hand, she held her mother's hand. Her cries, it was terrifying. Me and my friends, obviously, were scared, decided to run past them and onto the main street. We were just about 50 meters or so away from my apartment building, and the streets were covered in these ghouls, beasts, monsters, the night creatures, I suppose. It was the middle of the day. That was the scariest part, because you could just see everything. These things that I'm talking about, they're kinda like zombies, but are not. You can obviously see them. Their skin's kinda palish. They had the personification of death in their eyes, twitching, walking, gurgling, but not attacking. They'll just stare at you and then walk slowly towards you. And you will just see this thing, tall, white, pale creature slowly walking towards you. They had, they were still conscious. That's the worst part. They were still able to comprehend what they were doing, but incapable of control themselves. You could see that they were in pain. They had tears running down their face. Multiple of them approached me and my friends. My friend, we got scared, continued to run. The closer I got to my apartment, it seemed like we were farther away. Eventually, I just gave up, and then I stood. I waited for the beasts to come towards me. They came. They did not attack me. They didn't actually do anything. They simply surrounded me and stared at me while crying and gurgling and kinda like whispering, I would say. It's at that moment it felt like they were judging me, as if they were able to see every wrong and bad thing that I have done throughout my life, and they were judging me, as if they were pitying me, as if they were angry towards me for doing such evil things. I stood there, horrified, mortified. At that moment, I don't know what happened to my friend, but he was long gone, and that was a good choice. After that, I woke up from my dreams. In absolute horror, I jumped up and sat on my bed. My heart was beating fast, and sweats were running down my body like a goddamn river. It took me 5 minutes just to control myself. That dream, it was so realistic. Like, the thing about dreams is that whenever you dream, your brain doesn't actually get things correctly. They kind of change shape of things, change location of things, and change objects. But in that dream, everything was so accurate, like down to the minute detail. The advertisements on the boards, they are accurate. Size of buildings, streets, and people, car, everything. It seems so real. Like, the thing with me is that whenever I'm dreaming, I'm able to tell them. I'm able to tell that, hey, I'm dreaming. So I just, whenever I notice that, I just play along the dream, just have some fun inside the dream. But that nightmare, man, I were unable to tell that it was a dream, and it scares me. I don't know why I'm making this video. Maybe it's just a coping mechanism, but I don't think I'll ever forget that dream. It was just so goddamn realistic. Yeah, well, good night.